Step this way for the Spanish Inquisition. Just a little coffee talk, okay, like butter.
And now, broadcasting live on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, this is Elevation 5280 Sports with Matt Mascarenas.
I'm going to invite Matt?
Yeah, the whole gang. Matt included.
The Denver freaking Nuggets are the number one seed in the Western Conference, and they are coming for that you-know-what. There is nothing that can stop this team. Strap in with me. It is time to watch a Denver Nuggets championship run.
And Michael Spillin.
All work and no play makes Michael a dull boy.
Yeah, I'm excited for this Denver Nuggets playoff push. I'm excited for the rest of the season. But, Matt, well, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. But
it always happens that way.
I don't know what happened. But, yeah, we are back, and we are in action, Matt. As we are live right here on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We are Elevation 5280 Sports. You can follow all of the social medias if you would like. Follow us personally at Matt Mascarenas1 on the Twitterverse and at Michael Spillin. Follow our page at 5280 Sports Radio as well. And do all things Rocky Mountain Sports Network on Facebook at Rocky Mountain Sports Network, on the Instagram at Rocky MTNSN, and follow us at RM Sports Network on Twitter as well. Matt, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. I've been up for a little bit. I've had a lot of coffee. I'm not jittery, but I'm like, I feel like I'm locked in. I'm like focused. I'm like, well, maybe I am a little jittery, but I feel like I'm ready to go. How are you? How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm a little disappointed because it took me until about 12:30 this morning to finish that video, and it did not do anything.
Oh, no, one of those.
I don't know if it was the way it was downloaded, or I don't know. But it wouldn't be our show, Matt, without something not doing what we expect it to do. So,
and I know all about video problems with this system. I mean, we've talked on message about the problems I have with the videos.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened or any of that. So, I mean, it would have been cool if it was going to do what it was supposed to do. Watch us on YouTube as well at 5280 Sports Radio. Leave comments, text us, all on the bottom screen there. 720-375-2341 is the number if you would like to interact with us live right now. Matt, the Denver Broncos, as we start things off, and we'll get into array of topics this morning as the Avalanche win last night, the Nuggets lose. Those type of games you should not be losing heading into the playoff push, the back half of the season. It's after the All-Star break now. You should be not losing to Memphis on the road, especially in the fashion that they did. And then the Avs won last night. We'll get into that. Baseball spring training once again. We didn't get into this last week, Matt, but the World Baseball Classic, I think we touched on it maybe just a little bit. We'll get into the absolutely great rosters that are out there for the World Baseball Classic, kind of like the FIFA World Cup, if you're a soccer fan, kind of like that, where all the countries get together and compete. Is it the same? The World Baseball Classic, excuse me, is the same? Is it every 4 years?
I feel like that sounds right. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that sounds about right.
Yeah, we'll call it right for right now.
You're right.
We're going to start things off with your Denver Broncos, Matt, and that is the brand new cleaning house, new sheriff in town, hence the title of our episode this morning. Sean Payton has completed his coaching staff. We were waiting for the defensive coordinator. Everyone was like, why is Sean Payton taking so long? What's going on? And he finally names, we're back. Vance Joseph is back in town. So we're going to get all the great, he's a tall guy, great week of practice. We're going to get all that. It's all coming back, Matt. After 5 years of not having it, Vance Joseph is back. I guess he beat out Rex Ryan. He beat out Matt Patricia, who kind of entered the coordinator corral kind of late. Your reaction of not only Vance Joseph getting the job, do you like it, but him beating out those other guys?
Wasn't that kind of scary? I mean, we almost had Matt Patricia. There was a scenario where we could have had Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator here in Denver. And I mean, I want to say, and Sean, I trust, because with everything that's been going, hey, he brings in Rex Ryan, he was going to get Vic Fangio to come back. Hey, whatever. In Rex, we trust, right? Or in Sean, we trust. But that Matt Patricia one was kind of the one where I was kind of like, all right, man. I guess if you say so. I feel like we dodged a bullet just because I feel like Vance Joseph would bring more to the defense than a Matt Patricia would. And I as far as make the defense better, I mean, if you look in the past of what he has done and you listen to the former DBs that have played for Vance Joseph, they love playing for him. They love what he does, how he lets defensive backs, cornerbacks, safeties, how they lets them be aggressive and get more, how he coaches them up and stuff like that. And Vance, who was a former cornerback and defensive back in this league. So I feel like we dodged a bullet there with Matt Patricia, and we got Vance Joseph instead. I'm fine with it. I don't care. He's not coming back to be the head coach. He's coming back to be the defensive coordinator, essentially the head coach of the defense. So, and he's keeping a couple of defensive assistants, I believe. So that's also good as well. That for those people that were clamoring to keep people from past regimes, even though I'm all about get them out of here, because why would you want anything with the leftovers of the 5-12 season? So I'm fine with it. And I'm okay with Vance. Matt Patricia, I was a little bit nervous. I would have been okay with Rex the same way I'm okay with Vance, but Patricia, I was a little bit nervous with that guy.
Yeah, and then there was talk that he may, if Rex Ryan and or Vance Joseph got the DC job, there was even talks that he could still join the team
Yeah.
as a linebackers coach, which I'm not sure what his title was last season with the Patriots, Matt, but this guy's taken demotions the last couple of years. I mean, he went from, defensive coordinator of the Patriots, I guess Josh McDaniels was Belichick's right-hand man, Patricia was his left-hand man, if that's
Right.
a thing. For a very long time. He gets the head coaching job in Detroit. Let's face it, maybe besides Dan Campbell, you go to Detroit to fail. But, that was kind of inevitable. And then he gets fired from Detroit after I think it was maybe 2 seasons.
It wasn't, he didn't spend very, very much time there. It was not very long.
They did not like the pencil in the ear. And
that was his claim to fame. That was Matt Patricia's claim to fame, the pencil.
So then he goes back to the Patriots with his tail between his legs, just like Josh McDaniels did. Mm-hmm. And here we are. So I don't think Patricia has landed on his feet quite yet, but there was talk that he could still join the Broncos in some capacity, if not catch him back on the Patriots. But I like the VJ hire. A couple of rough seasons in Arizona. I don't think that really – I don't know. I don't know what defines a good defensive coordinator, Matt, anymore. I guess you look at points per game given up by a defense, and they were in the bottom 10 all 4 years that Vance Joseph was in Arizona. And I don't know if that says something about him as a coach, the schemes, players hurt. I don't know. When you have J.J. Watt and Budda Baker last year, J.J. Watt had what? I want to say he had at least 12 sacks.
He was a monster coming down the stretch at the end of the season.
So,
it's interesting because it's like, do we look at the situation that with Kingsbury, with Murray, and the GM? Do we look at that and give Vance a break? The first 2 seasons that team was a little bit more engaged and wanting to win, and then the last couple seasons it all went downhill. Now, do we cut Vance some slack with that? I don't know. If you can, I don't think it's tough, because it's like, well, Vance could have kept that defense going, could have kept everything going. And it looked like too, if you look at the Hard Knocks, Vance was kind of maybe being a coaching mentor to Cliff a little bit there, and kind of showing him or talking through some of the things he dealt with. So from that aspect, we're getting the D coordinator, and I don't get too caught up in the schemes and the the what front is he going to run? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? I think it's more of the players and coaching up the players, and I think Vance has, and just like along with Rex Ryan, and I think they have a good track record with that, and they'll plug in whatever defense they can, and Vance is going to be a little bit more aggressive if you look at the past history with Vance as a defensive coordinator. So, but yeah, that's interesting. If you want to cut him some slack for the debacle that ended up being the Arizona Cardinals the past couple seasons, you could, or you could, hold the line and say, nah, man, you still got to keep that defense straight with all that talent on there.
Was it because of Rex Ryan's, I guess, years away from football? A lot of people were, from what I was reading, just on social medias and stuff like that, that he was just too far removed from football, even being a analyst on ESPN for the last couple of years, just too far removed from it. And, he was in the building. They let him go without a contract. Or was it just the familiarity with Vance Joseph and how he coached? Let's face it, none of these people, Matt, were here when Vance Joseph was here 5 years ago. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody was in the building. Not one person, I don't think, was in the building. Not even George Payton was in the building.
No.
5 years ago when Vance Joseph was the head coach. So I guess maybe just familiar. He does have a little bit of experience with Justin Simmons and guys like that. But besides, knowing the building, knowing the state, maybe knowing the stadium, the locker rooms, there's really not much familiarity with Vance Joseph on a personal scale, and maybe even not a coaching scale for any of these people that the Broncos have brought in the last year and a half.
Right. And that's what you had with Rex Ryan and Sean Payton, was that familiarity that they Rob Ryan was Payton's DC. So there was that familiarity with there. They've been in the league for a long time. Rex was, was over there doing this thing in with the Jets while Sean was doing his things. It was very interesting that they went that route and they didn't go stay with that. Cause I think, like to your point there, to your question too, is I think it could have maybe played a factor in, Vance is coming off of being a DC in just last year, most recently last season, and it bringing him back in here. Maybe that was the thing that separated the two between Rex and Vance, and that's why they went. I don't know, but that's something to think about. And also too, with this coaching staff, there's a couple players that literally they were players this season that are on this coaching staff as well. The quarterback coach Webb, the former CU Buff quarterback, is now goes from backup quarterback to Daniel Jones in New York, straight to a quarterback coaching position. And then the other cat from I can't remember where he was from, but he just came off of the field as a backup corner or defensive back somewhere, and then now he walks right on to the coaching staff. So if you're looking at there's no recent coaching experience, and you look at these two cats, these two young kids that just basically walk off, it's like Sean's got a plethora of experience and non-experience with this coaching staff.
Yeah, so I was fascinated that they went with Vance Joseph as you mentioned. Peyton has a relationship with the Ryan, so I was
right.
I was kind of shocked to see them not go that direction, but maybe it was just him too far removed from day-to-day football. But Sean Payton just took a year off, so I don't know how fair that assessment is. So it's going to be fascinating. Now I want to get to this because especially the offensive staff that the Broncos have brought in. When Sean Payton's press conference went down, our old pal D-Mac asked a question like, what about Russell Wilson's quarterback coach? What about his team that's in the building, basically a film crew following him around? Like Russell Wilson had his own pretty much Hard Knocks camera crew following him around all season long, and it's going to change. And you heard Vance Joseph even say, I've never heard of that. We're not going to have that here. And you've heard the reports that Sean Payton did not take the job in Arizona because of Kyler Murray. And then Jonathan Gannon, who apparently a lot of comparisons to Pee Wee Herman, said if Kyler Murray wasn't there, he does not take that job.
Right.
But reports are that Sean Payton took the job in spite of Russell Wilson being here. So maybe he's just taking the challenge. There is something in Russell's contract that after this year, because this is the last year of his old Seattle deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if he does not perform well and they don't like him, whatever happens, they can get rid of him for not much against the cap after this year. Even though he signed that big deal, there's still something in his contract that says they can get rid of him for this year with not taking a huge bite out of the cap. But what do you make of this? I mean, the things are going to change. The offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, he got fired from the Chargers not too long ago.
Right.
He is back. He was a coach under Sean Payton in New Orleans. And you have John Morton coming in. He is the new pass game coordinator. Not really officially someone at the quarterback's coach position. So we'll see, Matt. I mean, this is going to be interesting. Pretty much everyone is gone from the previous regime. The wide receivers coach, and I forget his name, who was the longest tenured assistant coach on this team, Matt, he finally is gone. He went through, I think, 4 coaching changes, and he went to go join Nathaniel Hackett with the Jets. So what is this going to do for Russell Wilson? I heard somewhere else too, Matt, they're going to take away his office. No more office for a quarterback, which is good. No more his personal quarterback coach. So how do you think this is going to affect Russell Wilson? Is it too late for him to kind of get on the same page as the other players with all that happened last year? Or is it going to bring him down to their level, thinking that he's not, he's just one of the guys now?
Well, I think the thing that's changed is that, so Russell Wilson, it sounded like, and it's looking like, especially everything that's came out this past week, that Russell Wilson was the end all be all. It was like it started the hierarchy in that building in the Denver Broncos facility was like Russell Wilson, then it was Hackett, then it was Peyton, then it was Hackett, then it was down the list there. That's what it's looking like. That's what it's sounding like. Not only just with the office, but just with everything that has come to light since then. And I think that with Sean Payton here, and we've talked about this before, that's going to change everything, because I think Russell Wilson's going to look at Sean Payton and be like, okay, I don't have to be this guy because Sean Payton's here, that guy's here. So I'm just going to be me. I hope that's what happens. We can all hope and dream that that's what happens. But until it does, it's like the Russell Wilson we saw last year was not very, and it's weird because was it a Hackett problem? As soon as Rosberg comes in, and like Russell Wilson, there was like a shift. It felt different. Yeah, I mean, he still did some Russell Wilson stuff, but there was a lot of different things. He looked different. He played different. So that makes me think it was a Hackett thing. Like, he's not going to play for this Hackett guy, but he'll play for this Rosberg guy because he knows he's going to get Sean Payton at the end of the season. So I think that the biggest thing that changed that is here that needed to happen, what this team needed, and especially Russell Wilson needed, was Sean Payton. And that's why the coaching staff, although it's very important to some people, it wasn't that important to me, because you had the guy already, the main person in Sean Payton that has done this before, another Mike Shanahan type that has done this before, done it in his way, is going to do it his way. And that's what we need, or that's what this team needs. That's what Russell Wilson needed that. So I'm hoping that that's the case going forward. And now that you have that guy, Sean Payton, here, that will be all right, I guess. And Russell Wilson, will lock it in and straighten up or whatever. Because I've read so many things, Mike, and I'm sure you have, from different teammates that say he's not that guy. He's this. He's cool. He's good. Jerry Jeudy, Bowles, all these guys here are backing him up here with the Broncos. And then you have some other teammates, and Shannon Sharp is saying some stuff too that he's hearing. And where there's smoke, there's fire. There's always that scenario. So it's really interesting to see the different types of camps that exist out there, the anti-Russ and then the for Russ. But I think Sean Payton's the most important thing for Russell Wilson this season.
Yeah, he's got to be. And I was looking at Joe Lombardi's, I guess, resume, and obviously he spent. I didn't realize he was the Chargers offensive coordinator for 6 years, Matt, 16 to 22. And I mentioned going back to his New Orleans Saints days, he was the quarterback coach there for 4 years, 16 to 20. He spent a stint in Detroit as their offensive coordinator in 14-15, and then all the way back to New Orleans, Matt, again as an offensive assistant in 07-08 and a quarterback's coach there as well, 09 to 13. So he will be working very closely with Russell Wilson as well. But I agree with you. Sean Payton's going to have a lot to do with it. He's the last word, Matt. None of this,
Right.
let's let Russ do this. We're going to play loud music. I'm going to dance to Sierra. All that stuff is gone. It is a mature, experienced coaching staff now. And with the likes of Mike Westhoff, who we kind of poke fun of last week, he's going to be in the building. His experience, Paul Kelly, I believe his name is the assistant head coach. So he has 23 years of coaching experience. So he's going to be in Russ's ear, I'm assuming at some point. And so all these guys tasked with the challenge of fixing Russ. I don't know I don't know what to do with my hands in the game. Fixing Russ.
Right.
And that's what the term has been, Matt, over these last couple months. Who is going to be the head coach to fix Russ? And I've always asked myself, I've asked you, I've asked everybody. Obviously he needs tweaking in his game, but I always said, did he really fall off that much in a year after coming over here from Seattle? So fixing Russ, challenging, I think it's all going to be under one umbrella, Matt. Fixing Russ, I don't like that term, honestly. Fixing Russ, you just have to fix the scheme, the game plan. We saw it in the last two games.
Right.
The Broncos went from averaging 16 points a game to almost 27 points a game the last two games of the season. And Russell Wilson looked I think he threw only one interception in those last two games, and he looked a heck of a lot better passing out of the pocket. So it was just, play calling and game plan.
It's really odd because you take that example there, just that little example, and that sample size, and you wonder, like, if Rosberg was the coach, is this what Russ would have looked like from the beginning of the season? Because if that's what he would have looked like, then you're looking at a different outcome of the season, a different team potentially, and it really makes you wonder, like, what kind of mental state these professional athletes get into, and specifically Russell Wilson in this case, where it's just like a change of like, what was it there? Was it that Russell Wilson, like, was Hackett not that personality to take over, and Russell Wilson felt like he had to be that guy, and then he's not that guy, but he had to be that guy because nobody else in that room was. It's so odd that the play on the field suffered that much because of the mentals of this guy or those two guys, that they really couldn't get it straight, and it took one of them to get fired, like his first season as a head coach, to get fired with games remaining. It was crazy. So I'm curious to see if that, and Sean Payton, if you believe anything or you read into anything that's just came out, that with this recent a story that came out yesterday in the past couple days, if you believe anything about that, Russell Wilson wanted Sean Payton in Seattle, it sounded like. So he's got his wish. Like, Russell Wilson has zero excuses to go out and play even anywhere close to what he played like last year. No excuse.
No excuse. And I'm interested to find out, how him and Sean Payton are going to work together, because now we've heard reports that Russell Wilson, I guess, went to the owners of the Seahawks and asked for, I forgot their GM name, but asked for the GM and Pete Carroll to be fired. And of course, Russell Wilson came out and kind of debunked that on his Twitter, saying, I love Pete and the GM, excuse me, I forget his name. But yeah, there's those reports now. So,
and I believe it happened. I believe what professional star that was at the top of the team or top of the, Kevin Durant did it just as recently as last season. And then, and I'm not surprised that he would go and, like, I'm not shocked or or appalled that he would say something like that, because that's what happens. I mean, I don't know how do you feel about it. Like, if you feel like he did say it and then he comes out with that apology or whatever on social media, and I'm rooting for this dude, I'm rooting for him, but it's like, just, it's like when he came out with Dan Patrick. Remember the Dan Patrick that started all this, that he listed those 4 lists of teams that he'd like to go to or whatever. And it's like, just own it. Just own it. Go out there, be out there and own it. I want Russell Wilson to own it. Just be like, yeah, I said it. I wanted to change my life, and look what I got. I ended up here, you know what I'm saying? Like, just own it, instead of coming out and, we know you said it. Just own it, instead of coming out and giving these like backhanded apologies that have a message hidden in them.
Well, especially when you're together for so long, you're going to bump heads at some point. Whether it's, I mean, for as much as went right in Seattle all those years, going to what I think they went to a Super Bowl his rookie year, second year.
Yep.
And he went to 2 Super Bowls in his tenure in Seattle. Obviously, won one of them. Still nobody brings that up. Destroyed the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 48, and that was more Seattle's defense, but still, it's just fascinating what it's going to be like in the building. And obviously, Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett did not bump heads. One of them, it seemed like both of them, one of them needed to be the alpha dog, and it seemed like neither one of them wanted to be it. Russell Wilson could have went out there and changed plays if he wanted to, didn't. Nathaniel Hackett could have called plays in which Russell Wilson could have been more successful, didn't. Like, right. Why was none of these guys stepping up into that role? And you mentioned Vance Joseph, kind of that mentor or whatever for Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona. If you watch the in-season Hard Knocks, he was. Kingsbury was not a rah-rah guy. If you watched that Hard Knocks, he had a very like mellow tone voice, very like, all right, guys, this is what we're going to do today. That Vance Joseph went into those meetings swearing, cussing up a storm, yelling at guys, when he needed to. And Kingsbury was just not that way. Sean Payton is that way. He will get in your face. He will yell. He doesn't seem like it maybe at first glance, but he will do that.
Yeah, and that's what, like you said, we didn't. There was not that example here last season. There wasn't. I don't know if Evero was like that. I don't know if Evero felt like he needed to be like that, because maybe he was that guy that could have been like that, but even maybe him, and because I feel like there was problems with him and Russell Wilson maybe too, but I don't know. It's very curious. And also too, I like look out for now. I'm on the watch to see who they're going to bring in to. I think there's going to be a backup quarterback that maybe started somewhere last season that they might bring back. They might bring in here, and Sean Payton might bring in here, because I don't know. Like, we were talking about fixing Russ. I wonder if there's like a time clock on that fixing Russ kind of situation, because if they're not going to fix Russ, or Russ can't be fixed, Russ is broken. They're good. I don't think Sean Payton's going to diddle daddle very long on that whole situation on fixing Russ. He's just going to move on in season this year.
Yeah. And really quickly here, this just came through the wire. The San Diego Padres have given Manny Machado a 11-year, $350 million contract extension. So
no kid, wasn't he like going to go to Tampa or something like that?
He said that he was going to opt out after the season.
Yeah, he's going to opt out. No kidding, man. Hey, those dang old Padres, they're not doing it right, huh? They don't know what they're doing over there, do they?
NL West is pretty crappy. All right, so we welcome in Sean Payton. We'll get into baseball here in just a little bit. We welcome in Sean Payton as the new head coach. We all know his deal, his resume, Super Bowl winning head coach. It's been a little bit, but he is a Super Bowl winning head coach with the New Orleans Saints. We mentioned Joe Lombardi a little bit, coming off his stint as offensive coordinator for 6 years with the Chargers. I touched on his name. There's not an official quarterbacks coach, but I think that, maybe Sean Payton, Lombardi, who, by the way, is the grandson of the name of the Super Bowl trophy, by the way, if you didn't know that.
The namesake, baby.
Yeah. And John Morton is the pass game coordinator. If you did not know that, spent last season with the Detroit Lions as a senior offensive assistant. He was with the Raiders as a senior offensive assistant. His last, I guess, coaching stint was with the New York Jets in 2007, where he only spent 1 year as their offensive coordinator. He was also a wide receivers coach way back. Guess what? Guess for who, Matt? New Orleans Saints
The Saints.
in 15 and 16. So there's his ties with Sean Payton. The new wide receivers coach, Matt, is Kerry Colbert, who is a former wide receiver himself. He actually played, I think, 2 games with the Broncos way back when. Spent last season, he's got a full college resume. Spent last season as a wide receivers coach for the University of Florida. Before that, he was a wide receivers coach for USC. Before that, he was the tight ends and inside receivers coach. There's inside receivers coach, really, with USC in 2018. So he's got a lot of college receiver experience. And then tight ends now is going to be Delkin Doyle, is a new tight ends coach who is brand new in coaching, Matt. But guess what? With the Saints from 19 to 22 as an offensive assistant. So there you go. There's his ties with Sean Payton. And rounding out is the new offensive line coach, which is Zach Strafe. And guess what, Matt? He was the New Orleans Saints assistant offensive line coach from 20 to 21. But that was the year that Sean Payton took off. But there's his ties. Still new from in the building. So there's your new offensive staff. What are your thoughts?
If you look down that whole staff, is there anybody that screams to you that is going to have an opportunity to be a head coach next season or leave to go be a DC or an OC somewhere?
Well, offensively, obviously, Joe Lombardi's name sticks out just because he's been in that position before. But this, again, fixing Russ really has to come into fruition this year. Otherwise, none of these guys are going to – none of them are going to get coaching jobs next year, besides maybe staying in place with the Broncos.
And maybe Vance, if Vance has a tremendous season and keeps going, maybe Vance Joseph might get some looks at head coach next year. But I was just thinking about this as you ran through that, and I'm starting to think, is there a Sean Payton coaching tree? Like, I don't think off the top of my head if I can think of coordinators from Sean Payton's coaching staffs that have went on to be head coaches. Now, I could be mistaken, but off the top of my head, I don't think there's one. And what I'm trying to get here, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of coaches that have coached with Sean Payton before that are on the staff. So there's a lot of him bringing in those guys, those people around him, surrounding himself with those people that he knows will do their jobs, that he knows can run a side of the ball or a different type of element of practice. He knows that he's bringing these guys in that he knows can do certain things. He's not like trying to find the next hot coordinator or next hot assistant to be a hot coordinator. He's bringing in guys that know are going to do the job and essentially not going to leave next season. And that's what was interesting with Evero. Evero is going to be head coach next year. I truly believe, unless he just falls flat on his face with the Panthers, he's going to be a head coach next season. And it's really, really interesting to me how, if you look at the makeup of this coaching staff and you look over the past, Sean Payton really doesn't have a lot of coordinators that are head coach in this league, unless I'm missing somebody. So the coaching staff, the way he made it up, it's very, very, it looks like he's got guys that he knows are going to go out there and do their jobs, make this team better, not want to be a head coach or a budding coordinator in the future. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you look at guys like, obviously, Bill Belichick. His coaching tree has been just outstanding. And even now, you have guys like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, who let's face it, they are now trees themselves, but
Yep.
They started off branches of Mike Shanahan, and LaFleur was on that tree as well. Sean Payton, he was a Parcells coaching tree, right?
Yep,
So,
he was Parcells guy.
So I can't name you. Honestly, I cannot name you off the top of my head one guy that's really come off of a Sean Payton coaching tree, at least to become a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to look it up here as we talk, and I don't know, Matt. It is interesting to to look at that.
It
Because
is, and
it's
it
not really
makes you wonder.
prevalent.
Like, does is it like, does Sean coach up his coaches to coach? I know that sounds kind of like awkward, but what's the dynamic there? Is Sean the end all be all? And is that why none of these guys, they blossom and they grow into to be coordinate good, you know what I mean? Like, is what is that there? Is that, does that bode well for Sean Payton, that he's got a solid, culture of coaches that seemingly stay with him and go and coach with him wherever he goes, because that's what it looks like right now. He's not trying to find the next hot and upcoming assistant. He's a position coach to be coordinator. He's getting guys that know are going to come in and run and do their jobs and run that defense. It's crazy.
So he does have a little tree, Matt. It's still growing. And let's face it, in terms of coaching years, Sean Payton is relatively still young. And
Right.
so his tree is this. So Dennis Allen actually is under his coaching tree.
See, I didn't know if he was for sure, because I know he was here and then he went to the Raiders.
Yeah, but he was an assistant coach under Sean Payton. Yeah, he actually left New Orleans at one point too, to come
Okay.
here to be the defensive coordinator, and then he went to the Raiders in 2012
Right.
to become their head coach. Doug Marrone was actually a Sean Payton guy who obviously went on to
Yep.
Buffalo and things of that nature. And that's it for the NFL, Matt. But college head coaches, Curtis Johnson, he went on to coach Tulane, and Aaron Kramer, who was a New Orleans Saints intern in 2012. He was actually their interim head coach while Sean Payton got suspended for the, what was it called?
Bounty Gate?
Bountygate. And he also Aaron Kramer went on to be the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator in 2013. So it's a little tree, but it's sprouting, I guess. And I don't think you can put Vance Joseph in his tree. Vance Joseph is part of another tree, but Joe Lombardi's on that tree.
Joe Lombardi.
Pretty much everybody on this offensive coaching staff is on that tree.
And that's, isn't like that's, to me, that's pretty good to have a bunch of guys like that are just like ready to go. And they could have all been sitting there waiting in New Orleans for him to get another job, and then they're all gone. And I mean, like, it's the coaching staff that he built and that he assembled. Now that you really dig down and deep and you look at it, it's very, very interesting. They're coaches that coach, and I don't think they're coaches that are looking to get. I'm not saying that each coach doesn't have that goal to get to the next level of their coaching jobs or their coaching lives, but I feel like they're all happy doing what they're doing, working and coaching with Sean Payton.
So looking at we welcomed in the new offensive staff. Here's the new defensive coaches. And not new. Vance Joseph obviously is back. We're back. And he is the new defensive coordinator. Spent the last 4 seasons as Arizona with the same title, defensive coordinator. Before that was obviously here in Denver as the head coach in 17-18. Before that, defensive coordinator with the Miami Dolphins. Let's not forget, and that was 2016. And then before that, he was the defensive backs coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's when John Elway wanted to bring him in, if you remember, because everyone's like, he hasn't even been a defensive coordinator. You're going to make him a first-time head coach. He went to Miami. John Elway gave him a year and then offered him the head coach position in 2017. And he dates back all the way to Houston, San Francisco, Bowling Green, and, of course, a quarterback at the University of Colorado Boulder. From 99 to 01, right after he was done playing, he became CU's defensive back coach in 2002, 2003. So that is Vance Joseph resume right there. Defensive line coach now is Marcus Dixon, and new to coaching. Last season, he was the assistant defensive line coach with the LA Rams. Before that, he was at Hampton University for a couple of years. The new inside linebackers coach is Greg Manuski, and he is an experienced coach and spent last season as the inside linebackers coach with the Vikings. Before that, University of Kentucky with the Washington football team as their defensive coordinator, Matt, for 3 seasons, 17 to 19. And he was actually the defensive coordinator for the Colts in 2012 all the way to 2015. Going back to the Chargers defensive coordinator in 2011, defensive coordinator for the 49ers for 3 seasons in 07 to 10. So he's got a lot of defensive experience as well. The new defensive back coach, as you mentioned, Matt, just a little bit earlier, Christian Parker, who's kind of new to coaching as well. How about this? He is the one holdover from last season, Matt. The one holdover, but he was with your Green Bay Packers before that, defensive quality control coach, and before that spent a number of years in college. Rounding out the new defensive staff is the new outside linebackers, who we thought maybe Matt Patricia was going to get this, but it is now Michael Whithoit. I'm assuming that's how you spent it. Spent last season with the Chargers as their linebackers coach. And how about this? Going back to the Saints. He was their special teams assistant in 19 and defensive assistant in 20. So not really a lot of Sean Payton ties on the defensive side, except for Michael Wilhoit, the outside linebackers coach.
Yep. And that tells you right there too, that, Vance comes in, and outside of Wilhoit, that he decides to keep a couple guys and then add those 2 guys that were here. So it was like, coming in here and it's just, they're letting Vance do his thing. He's not coming in. Okay. Sean's not like, hey, we want this guy. He's like, hey, Vance, I like this guy, or I like these guys, but it's your staff. You do what you want with, that's the feel I got with how they're going to run this defense and this coordinated defense with Vance Joseph. But it's really interesting. Like this coaching staff, man, it's the way it came together and watching it come together. It was very, very interesting.
And that's what you want. You want the defensive assistants, the coordinators to do their own thing. And now the question is play calling. Obviously Vance Joseph is going to call the defense. I think we know that Sean Payton's an offensive guy. Has it been announced that Sean Payton is going to call plays, or is he going to give that to Lombardi?
I'd be curious to see how that works. I would imagine that Peyton's the one that's going to be calling the plays, or, in some way, shape, or form, calling the plays, coordinating the offense as far as, shouting out formations, setting in, sets. I don't know. I would imagine that he is, or because I don't really see Sean Payton in the past as being that game management coach with his hands, folded during each offense and defense. He's got his play call sheet. He's looking at it. He's doing it. So I wouldn't see why he wouldn't call the plays, but there could be some differences in formation sets, stuff like that. But yeah, I think Sean Payton's going to call the plays.
All right. Now we look at the new special teams coach, and Mike Westhoff is actually listed as a under the special teams coaches, but he is the assistant head coach. We kind of mentioned his resume last week, Matt, a big resume. And he's taken a couple years off coaching as well, as we mentioned. But guess what? Dating back to the Saints in 17-18, where he was the special teams coach. So is he going to be, I guess, essentially the special teams coach? They have him listed under special teams, but maybe because that was his prior position with the Saints. So that really hasn't been announced, so to speak. The special teams coordinator now is Ben, and I'm going to butcher this name, Kotwicka.
I think that sounds right.
I'm assuming that's how you say it. Spent last season. Guess what, Matt? He wasn't in coaching last season either. He wasn't in. He's taken a couple years off. Last coached with the Minnesota Vikings as assistant special teams coach in 2020. Before that, special teams coordinator with the Falcons. Before that, with Washington. So he does have a lot of special teams experience, but he's also taken a couple years off. And finally, assistant special teams is Chris Banjo, and this is his first coaching gig. So there is your special teams coaches, and I mentioned Paul Kelly. He's assistant to the head coach. So you have assistant head coach in Mike Westhoff, assistant to the head coach in Paul. It's just assistant to the regional manager.
Yep.
It's the office all over again.
It is. That's what it sounds like. And I think that Mike Westhoff is going to have a lot to do with the special teams. I think he's going to help Ben with his coordination of the special teams, I think it's going to be I think that's going to be a big point of emphasis. Really, really, really big point of emphasis this season. And I think we might even see a new field goal kicker. I hope Brandon doesn't hear us, because he likes to, go at people on social media that he just likes to go off. But I think we could see a new field goal kicker too as well. There's one thing too that with Sean Payton is, and I think we're starting to see it as well, is he's going to get you out of here if you aren't good at your job, or you make a lot of mistakes at your job, or you can get better at that position, or get better at that with that position at that job, then I think you're going to be out of here. So I think not only is, Russell Wilson got to be kind of come back, but, that special teams, which looked a lot better at the end of the year, but I think they could be a hell of a lot better. I don't think you're going to see Waitman as a punter anymore. I think he's going to be gone. I think you might see two new people kicking the football here in Denver. You could definitely could.
Really, the last remaining player from Super Bowl 50 gone out the window.
Gone.
There you go. All right, two more guys we'll mention here, and then we'll move on. Strength and conditioning. The new guy is Dan. I'm gonna Daryl Mipple.
Daryl. I heard it said, but I can't repeat it.
All right. Well, guess what? He's got ties to Sean Payton. Last seen in New Orleans as a head strength and conditioning coach from 2006 to 2022. So he was with New Orleans, Matt, for 16 years.
And I hear Breeze credits this guy with the longevity of his career. So if you want to look at an example of getting the most out of your players, look at Drew Brees with this guy. That's one thing I heard Drew Brees say about this dude.
And he's a short guy. So maybe we'll see. Well, maybe we'll hear more of that. All right. And then Corey Jones is the new assistant to the strength and conditioning coach. This is his first coaching gig as well. So that rounds out all the newbies, Matt. One holdover, as we mentioned, and it's going to be fascinating, man. The one holdover is Christian Parker, the defensive backs coach. And we thought maybe all of these guys were going to be wiped out. Not officially a quarterbacks coach. 3 guys could tackle that, down to 2 guys, and Joe Lombardi and John Morton. Both of those guys have been quarterback coaches in the past, and not really a special teams coach. There's a special teams coordinator in Ben Kotwicka, but we'll see. I guess he's taking over special teams.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I'm excited for it though, man, because it's a plethora of experience. Up and down the whole, you're gonna get coaches and see. You remember last year Hackett comes in and we're gonna get coaches to coach the coaches. We're gonna get coaches that we're gonna get this. You can see it right here that there's coaches. Mike Westhoff is gonna coach Ben for sure. Ben and Chris, that's gonna be coached by Mike Westhoff that whole time, and Vance is gonna coach up all these guys on the defensive end, and then of course you got the offensive end. But if you look down, that you're gonna have coaches that are going to coach up these guys, these young guys that are new, and get them going. I'm excited to see what this looks like. It's not on paper like an all-star lineup, so to speak, like you might have thought it could be. Like Anthony Lynn could potentially have been the OC. There was that being thrown around. Rex Ryan could have been a sexier name than Vance Joseph. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's not as sexy. It's not as star-studded as you would think. But it's pretty freaking solid. It's pretty solid coaching staff.
I think it's an experienced, no nonsense
mm-hmm.
type of coaching staff, and that's what you needed coming off last season, and even coming off years previous with VJ, with Papa Vic, and there was a lot of talk about Papa Vic returning. So only one guy returned, and that was VJ. I guess Papa Vic just he ate all the meatballs and the lasagna,
And if he would have just got off of Shermer, Popovic, if he would have just got off the Shermer train and said, yes, we'll go a different route, he could freaking still be here. That's what's crazy. We had it here. And then he couldn't get off of Shermer.
Yep.
And the quarterback, I guess, I don't know.
Sometimes you're looking to throw in completions. So
sometimes.
Good old Pat. All right. So we welcome in the new Denver Broncos coaching staff. We'll see how it all turns out. The combine is next week, Matt. So you kind of or in the coming weeks, Matt. So you had to get this kind of in place, and everyone was waiting. What's taking so long? Well, now you know why. Guys coming. I was going to say guys coming from all over the place, but let's face it, about 80% of the staff coming over from the New Orleans Saints. So there you go. All right, moving on here, Matt, and playoff pushes. Post All-Star breaks, stretch runs, both of them are in place now for your Denver Nuggets and your Colorado Avalanche. Nuggets lose, basically didn't even show up last night in Memphis, and they get run out of the gym, Matt, 112-94. After every quarter, it seemed like they were down by 30-plus points after each quarter, and they fall 112-94. Just not the game you need. You kind of heard in the intro that you can't go on the road, lose to teams like Orlando. You can't lose to teams with Memphis. And you're not even sitting guys, really. You weren't even sitting Jamal Murray or Jokic or anybody. Aaron Gordon's still out with a rib injury, but you're not sitting guys and you get blown out of the gym by the Grizzlies, Matt. You cannot have these games down the stretch run. I don't know if this was just, travel days or what have you. I don't care. You cannot lose these type of games. And they're still first in the West. They're just above the Grizzlies in the West. Celtics are still blowing people out, running people out of the gym on their side as well. It just seems like, man, every time the Nuggets are being mentioned, they're like, first in the West. Some idiots like Stephen A. are like, you don't want to catch the Lakers in the first round. Shut up. But then, as soon as you're defending the Nuggets against those type of comments, they go and lose to Orlando and Memphis. I get it, Memphis is a way better team to Orlando, but they did lose to Orlando on the road, Matt, not too long ago, with everybody playing, by the way. You just can't lose these games. And now the question is, well, if you can't beat Memphis on the road, how are you going to get out of the West? And I hate I hate those conversations, because we were just on a Nuggets high, Matt, just on a Nuggets high, going on the road and beating Cleveland. Cleveland had only lost 5 games at home. Going on the road, beating Miami last week, beating Dallas last week, going to, see Orlando. They lost to them on February 9th, Matt, 115-104 on the road. You just cannot be, they lost to Minnesota a couple weeks ago on the road. You cannot be losing these games on the road. Matt, they're 15-15 on the road. You can't have that in playoff time.
Yeah, it's they're in a peculiar spot, because they're trying to get this second unit right. This newly looking second unit with Reggie Jackson, with Thomas Bryant, with who else do they got? Kind of like Chanchar getting up there, getting more minutes. Christian Brown getting those different minutes now. And I think that's what you saw last night. The win in Cleveland was spectacular. That was like one of those wins that you expect this team to go out and do, this kind of 1-seed team to go out and do. And a win like last night was just like, what, how could you look that good that night and then come back and do this? And that's just funny how basketball is, man. Basketball, you can do that. It's runs. You can get momentum. And last night, the Nuggets didn't have it. They were shooting like crap. I think they shot 30-some% from the field. And then they were like they were like 2 for 14 or something ungodly from 3-point range. And they just weren't flowing. Joker goes off the floor. And this is a big problem with the Nuggets in the past, was Joker would go off the floor and they would be up 5. And then he'd come back off of that break. They'd be down 10. And last night he went off the floor. They were down 8, which is not a big deal. Then he comes back, they're down 20. So you can't have those lapses like that with this basketball team. And I think right now, outside of injury, we got to look at getting that second unit right, whatever it is, however it's going to be. If you're going to I think they kind of slowed down on staggering Murray with that second unit, especially since Murray's been a little banged up or getting right with that knee. And PJ had a great game the other night. And Aaron Gordon, you're still missing him. You're still wishing he would come back. But right now, I mean, it's the main focus to the rest of the season, wherever you're looking at, is this Denver Nuggets team to get that second unit right, whether it's with Reggie, whether it's with Bryant. What minutes is he going to play? How is he going to come in and play those minutes? You know, the Nuggets have done this in the past. They'll trade for a big, and then they don't come and play him like they thought they were going to or try to. Thomas Bryant's one of those guys you need to do that with. So it's going to be, you know, Michael Malone's going to have to really dial up this second unit and really get him playing right. Whether you're staggering some of the first unit, you're going to have to stop, you know, giving Joker these extended breaks. The whole purpose of that second unit is to get Joker these extended breaks, but it all depends on that second unit going forward. I think that this team's still going to be fine, and they're still going to be a championship caliber team, but you got to get this second unit right. We got to get it right. You can't go off the floor with the lead and come back down. You can't do it, and I think that's the biggest problem right now, what we're dealing with.
You just can't lose these games, especially on the road where you're going to be playing playoff basketball, you know, in Memphis, where they just lost, possibly in LA, in Dallas. And when I say LA, I mean the Clippers, not the stupid Lakers. And, you know, teams like that, you just cannot be losing to these teams. You just can't. And I don't want to say I'm scared, but now, you know, we're in the stretch run. I know it's just one game. People are like, you know, get off the edge of the cliff, things of that nature. So I'm trying to be patient, trying to be not nervous. Again, they will be playing Houston, so kind of a get right game here in a couple days. But guess what, Matt? Tonight, the Clippers, a big test. It'll be at home. Russell Westbrook, the new look Clippers. And here we go. Eric Gordon, new look. Bones. if guess what, Matt? 5 minutes the other night. So I don't know what he was. When the Clippers traded, I feel bad. I think I mentioned this last week. I feel bad for John Wall, but when they traded for Eric Gordon, I was like, oh, okay, you know, he's going to be the starter. Bones is going to be on the, and then they signed Russell Westbrook.
Yep.
Like, oh, good luck, Bones. You thought you had it bad here.
Yep. Big test tonight for this Nuggets team. Big test tonight. And I think they'll come out, they'll blaze, they'll smoke the Clippers. I mean, that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, this bench unit, it needs to get right. It needs to get in a semblance of rotation, because they're going to come out, they're going to go off, and they're going to have games where they play great. But like you said, you can't have games like you did last night. You can't do it. You can't be in a situation where you're getting blown off the floor, because that does not do anything to get you ready for this playoff run.
And this, you know, they've gotten rid of a lot of back-to-backs, especially when you're going from away to home. But this is their second back-to-back this month, Matt. They did it the beginning of the month. They were home against Atlanta and went to Minnesota. Guess what? Beat Atlanta at home, lost to Minnesota on the road. This month, lost to Memphis on the road. So we'll see what happens tonight as they face the Clippers at home. And really quickly, last month, they had a back-to-back. Clippers were here, ran them out of the gym, 122-91. Cleveland came into town, ran them out of the gym, 121-108. And then they had 3 back-to-backs last month, Matt, in January alone. But guess what? The back-to-backs at home, they won both of those games. Portland, they beat 122-113. Next game was Minnesota. Beat them 122-118. The next back-to-back was at New Orleans. They won 99-98. Went to Milwaukee. Well, let's face it, Milwaukee's pretty good, and lost by 8 points there. So, you know, back-to-backs at home on the road, that's where they struggle, or road and home. So look out for that. Clippers are a good team coming in. Kawhi, I don't know if you saw that crazy game. He had 44 points in the double overtime loss. So yeah. Kawhi is back. So look out for the Claw. Paul George is playing good basketball. Now Russell Westbrook had 17 points, I think 13 assists in his Clippers debut the other night. So he's going to fit it. I think Russ is coming off the bench.
Yep. Yeah. And I was, you know, if we didn't get Reggie, I was even looking at trying to get Russ here. Like there was even a future where I could have seen Russ here.
There's only room for one Russell in the town of Denver.
But there's yeah. You think Russ is gonna come in on our office? Can I have your office, Russ?
And both of them haven't really been talked about in the brightest of lights.
Yeah, right.
I feel bad for Russell Westbrook. I think I mentioned it. Since he signed that 5-year extension, with the Thunder. He's been on 5 different teams. I don't know if you can count Utah, but still, he was officially on Utah because he was traded for, but they bought out.
He's got the short end of the stick of a lot of these trades that he went from Houston to Washington.
And he played well in Washington.
He did.
Him and Bradley Beal were actually a pretty good duo.
I like what they were doing in Washington. It's just it's crazy.
And
he's still playing at a competitive clip. He's still playing at a production, like he's still producing, which is crazy.
Yeah, so we'll see the Nuggets play the Clippers, a late one tonight. Maybe you are able to watch it.
That's going to be a rough one for me, man. Those ones are always rough for me.
It is on ESPN, so maybe you'll be able to watch it.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. Somehow they'll screw us. I don't know. Maybe we'll
see. All right, really quickly here, and we may run out of time for baseball talk, but the roommates at the SAC for the Denver Nuggets, and when I say SAC, I mean Ball Arena, if you get it. The roommates of the Denver Nuggets, the Colorado Avalanche, got a big win last night against Calgary. It was Nazem Kadri's return to Ball Arena, got a huge standing ovation. Good for him. He deserved it. Helped the Avs win a title last season. Couldn't afford him. Gets a pretty good deal, pretty good chunk of change from the Calgary Flames. And on Friday night, Matt, I mean, absolutely skated the Jets out of the arena, beat them 5-1 up in Winnipeg. They get a big win yesterday against Calgary, and they will have a even almost bigger test as they play Vegas here on tomorrow at 7, and then they go to New Jersey at the end of the week. But they're beating teams. They're beating teams that are above them, Matt. And Nuggets are losing to teams that are beneath them, and you just can't do that when you're trying to hold spot. Avs went from almost out of the playoff picture, Matt, to the second wild card, but guess what? They just leapfrogged the Minnesota Wild. So now the Avs are second in the Central Division. They were hanging on to a wild card spot, but now they are at 71 points. Guess what? They're only 5 points behind first place Vegas, and they are only 3 points behind first place Dallas in their respective divisions. So, since the division shakeup, it's kind of been a weird. There's only a handful of divisions now. You have the Central and Pacific. I think the Avs used to be in the Northwest, just like the Nuggets,
right.
And kind of shuffle things around. And then the Eastern Conference, they did the Atlantic and Metropolitan. So they've kind of fancied those names up a bit. So the Avs are doing well right now. They got to keep this going. Landeskog is back skating, which could be good news. I was hoping for a Patrick Kane trade alert to come through. I mean, he's so much wrapped up in trade talk that he flew home from the Blackhawks travel from their road trip. So he's not even with the team now. Jonathan Taves has been hurt, so he's basically untradeable for the Blackhawks. But those two, I would take either one of them. And I get it. He would only be a rental. He'd only be a rental but that's a good rental to have, Matt. I honestly, Patrick Kane is actually playing pretty good hockey for being on a rebuilding Blackhawks team. So my question to you, Matt, is can the Avalanche win another championship before the Nuggets?
God, they're coming, man. I feel like it was just a month ago when, and you might have already said this. Everybody was doom and gloom. Like everybody was ready to fire the coach, fire Bednar. Everybody's ready to hang Sakic. Signing what's his, instead of Kadri or who they Nichushkin and all these other guys. There was just so many things going on, so negativity just going on. We got to dump this. This is horrible. That we got to pop smoke on this whole season. Blah blah blah. And then now they're so close to that. I think they will overtake that number 1 seed. They will go back to the playoffs. They will go back to the Stanley Cup champ. Like that's the way it's looking. But again, like the only thing for me, and then I was you mentioned Kane Kane getting traded. What about the kid from Detroit? The kid that the Detroit's not Yzerman's not wanting to pay this kid for some reason. I've been hearing him getting brought up in trade talk so much that kid's a stud, and they're looking at getting him over here. And then also, let me ask you this too, Mike. Papa Georgiev, I thought he was going to be the guy. What's with this trade that they just made? Is that a significant trade to get some backup goalie help here? And I know the kid they got over there with the Eagles is supposed to be pretty good, but he might be a year or two away. Are we having some trouble with the goaltending issues there? Are we not sold on Georgiev anymore? I mean, what's going on there? Because for me, I'm an old school hockey guy, and that goaltender is the most important position for me. Going forward, that goaltender has always been that most important position. And are we seeing some issues there with this goaltending here? It looks like Georgie has been playing well, but are the Avs getting worried about longevity or maybe having somebody behind him?
Well, Francouz is hurt, so that's why they made the trade, and that's why they brought in the kid from the Colorado Eagles, and so you have that and the trade that they made yesterday, as I think a casual fan is not gonna recognize either name. That they made the trade as the Avs trade Shane Bowers to the Boston Bruins for Keith Kincaid, the goalie. And Keith Kincaid's been around a little bit. He's been on several different teams. Bowers hasn't really had much of playing time. He played a little bit this season when multiple guys were down, when you were out, Nichushkin, Landeskog, McKinnon, he got a little bit of playing time, but not much. So it's just insurance, just like the maybe it was a trade last year or the year before. And forgive me, I forget the names where Sakic brought in a goalie, didn't play much. And, they even brought back a goalie who was on the team a couple years ago. They brought him back just for insurance, Matt, with Francouz in and out of the lineup. And they bring in the kid in from the Eagles, just for even more insurance. So we'll see if he stays with the Eagles, plays with the team where Kincaid fits in. But Papa Georgie is going to be still your number one with Francouz in and out of the lineup. And let's face it, Francouz has been this way the last couple of years, in and out of the lineup. Even back when, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name, the guy who went to Seattle as part of their expansion draft, the goalie, Grubauer.
Grubauer.
Even when Grubauer in maybe it was the bubble, maybe it wasn't, I don't remember, but it was in the playoffs where Grubauer got hurt and Francouz got hurt, and I think they brought in the Zamboni driver. To be their emergency, and Francouz was playing well in those playoffs, and then he got hurt. So this isn't anything new. This isn't really anything new with Francouz, who's been in and out of the lineup the last couple of years. Actually, for even before the All-Star break, maybe a couple months into the season, he was playing better goalie than Giorgio was. So, and Georgiev was one of those guys you question the signing of him or the trade that they brought him in here. He was just I can't say his name, Sturchin, the excellent goalie for the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the name you remember. Who you're like, who's Georgiev? But he's still going to be your number one guy. So I wouldn't look too much into the trade. It's just for insurance, just for backup if you need it. You might see the kid from the Eagles. You might see Kincaid in there, maybe 1 or 2 games until Francouz gets back. But it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, I was just wondering that because I see moves like that, and it's like, okay, well, you got this guy, and then Francouz is, it's just you didn't know what's going on, but I really think I'm a Nuggets fan. I'm rooting for the Nuggets to get that championship, to be in the championship window this year. I think they're in a championship window for the next at least couple seasons, barring injury and staying healthy. But yeah, with the way the Avs and the things that they've done, it's just looking at it like, God, how could you even think that this team was not going to be there this season? And just looking at their culture is there with the Avs that you would want with the Broncos, like that sense of culture, winning. This team knows how to win and knows how to get back to where, if it takes a dump or takes a couple of games or a couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever it is, they know how to get back to where they're going. So to doubt that team and to doubt what Sakic's doing over there was really, really interesting to me. And I don't even follow the Avs as much as, most people do, or as I follow other things, but I even knew with what I was like, man, you guys are you guys are overreacting on this whole thing, but I think we could definitely see 2 championships in the sack this year.
In the sack. They're growing in the sack.
They're
Hey,
growing in the sack, 2 of them.
Justice Annanen, by the way, is the kid from the Colorado Eagles. He got a little playing time last season.
Dude look good. Look good.
He does look like he's 12. I'll give him
Mhm.
that. But he has been in and out of the lineup as well when guys have been down. And I guess for the to defend the naysayers at the beginning of the year, there were so many injuries this year. It was not looking good. Bednar was being questioned. Defending the cup was being questioned. I mean, when you're down, Landeskog, McKinnon, Makar's been in and out. He's still out with
Right. Is he concussion protocol or something?
Yeah, Nichushkin was out. I think Lehkonen missed a little bit of time. When you're top dogs, I think Rantanen really has been the one stable guy
Right.
who's been in the lineup this season, and he was in and out of the lineup last season. Obviously the talk this season is about Connor McDavid up in Edmonton, who had just hit 45 goals scored already this season. Rantanen has 38 goals, Matt. And for as much time as McKinnon has missed, he's got 21 assists. McKinnon, 49 assists. Makar, who's been missed the last couple games, he's already up there with 32 assists. Points leaders, McKinnon has 70, Rantanen was 69, and a hurt Cale Makar is 45. So there you go. And I don't know. It's just going to be and Johansson also, Matt, still being talked about at goalie as well. He's only played one game this season, so he's been in and out of the lineup. He was the guy I mentioned in the trade last season.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that I get into with these long seasons, like with basketball, with hockey, the 82 game seasons, is that when teams get hurt, get injured, or they have a bad stretch, it's like there's so many games to get right. There's still so many games to go out there, grind for points, especially in hockey. When you can get points, you can still accumulate points without getting wins. So if you go out there and grind, you can still keep above water. You can still stay afloat. And the same thing with basketball. You keep grinding, you keep dialing in your rotations. You put some wins together, you get some momentum going. And the next thing you know, you've won 4, 5, 6 games in a row, and you're beating number one team. So that's the thing with the Avs, is with the culture that's there, and the philosophy that's going through that building, I think is what trumps everything, even when they are hurt. That's why I don't follow that. I don't follow them as much as I do the Nuggets, but I was like, they're going to get right. They're going to get right.
You didn't excuse me, you didn't answer my question though. Can and will the Avalanche win another title before the Nuggets do?
No, because I think the Nuggets are going to win one this year first. I don't know how that works though.
Technically their scheduled time frame is around the same. So yeah, it just depends on who's sharing the sack and not.
I do think there will be multiple championships in the sack.
Can you imagine the Avalanche winning back-to-back cups and then the Nuggets winning it? I mean, that's a busy sack. That's
that's a party in that sack, man.
That's a lot of people going to the ball.
Do you want to get really crazy? Think about this: the Avs win back-to-back, right? The Nuggets win this year. The Nuggets, they are in a window, and they have an opportunity to win another back-to-back one. And the Avs, why wouldn't they be in another window to win another one? You can have just keep all the championships in the sack, and we don't have to worry about it, right?
Right. All right, we got to get it on here really quickly, Matt. How about this? Your Colorado Rockies are 1-0 in spring training, absolutely demolishing the D-backs, 12-5 yesterday. Then they'll play the Milwaukee Brewers today. So there you go. There's your baseball report from Elevation.
Did you see the future great player for some other team? Look, I forget the kid's name now. Hansen, was it Hansen for the Rockies?
Garrett Hampson?
No. Oh gosh darn it! I just had it up here and I can't find it.
Brought back Garrett Hampson.
Not that Garrett Hampson. The kid that I'll get it. Hold on here.
But yeah, they took care of business yesterday against the Diamondbacks, and of course, this is we are being totally sarcastic when we talk about the Rockies absolutely demolishing the D-backs in spring training. But it is a strong start, I guess. Are you talking about Alan Trejo?
No, not Trejo. He's a young guy, number 70. Is it Doyle? He hit a home run yesterday, his first home run. Second at bat.
Oh, Brenton Doyle.
Doyle rules.
Yeah,
Doyle, he is the future center fielder for some other team. Okay, you ready to watch the future great center fielder for some other team?
He might not even make it to regular season play.
No, he's already on another team. From what he did yesterday and everything that he's done, the Moffat's like, we can't have him here. We can't have him screw up our decent baseball team. He's too good. Got to get him out of here.
Yeah, just get him out. We don't want him here. But yeah, that's your Colorado Rockies report for this one as they get the win yesterday, 12-5 over the Arizona Diamondbacks. All right, Matt, let's get out of here. Anything you're looking forward to this week? Obviously, we mentioned the Nuggets schedule, the Avs schedule. Rockies are in spring training. Any new shows are you watching?
Oh man, I just started watching. I can't remember what the heck it was called. Some show on Netflix that was pretty cool. It had something to do with the Bill Russell show. I just watched the Bill Russell show. Freaking tremendous. If you're old head basketball head, go watch that. It was a great show. And then if you haven't finished up the Golf Full Swing, that's pretty freaking cool. I'm looking forward to what the Nuggets do this week. It's going to be a big week for the Nuggets. I'm going to even look in on some Avs to see what they're doing. But I'm really going to be locked into these Denver Nuggets. Now that the coaching staff is fulfilled, I guess, we don't really have to worry to talk about the Broncos anymore unless they're going to whine about Russell Wilson spitting gum on the ground somewhere. I don't know. We'll see what happens there, but I'm focusing on the Nuggets this week.
I don't know if Russell Wilson will do what his former coach said he wanted to get fired does, and that's spit gum all over the place. I don't know if you saw. Did you? We don't have time. But the guy who got a piece of Pete Carroll's gum.
I did see that. It was just disgusting.
that was actually crazy. Thanks to all the comments. We didn't get to them, but I wanted to get to this JC Weaver comment. VJ is going to be a blessing for this defense. NASCAR package is back, and so will the turnovers. I'm actually kind of excited. We're back.
I just hope we got the players to run that NASCAR package, because right now I mean, Gregory and who else is going to run that on the outside?
You got to hope Gregory's 100%, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And then JC also asked us, do you think that the Broncos will draft a quarterback this year? It's possible.
I would.
Yeah.
I would take Hendon Hooker. I would take AR-15, even though he might blow up the ladder, the board. But I'd look at Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, and then Keith mentioned this one in the loss of Azani. There you go. I was going to say Aziz Ansari, but I knew that was wrong. And the loss of Azani and the hiring of Colbert, possibly the biggest loss reach moving into next season. Yeah, and we mentioned that Azani went to go join the Nathaniel Hackett coaching offense over there with the Jets, and he was the longest holdover, dating back a couple of coaching tenures. So I don't know.
Good riddance for me. That dude was not as good as people say he was. The wide receiver room hasn't got better. It's regressed. Jerry Jeudy was out of position since he got here. He wasn't playing where he needed to play. That was evident last year by force of injury. And in my opinion, I don't think that's a loss. I think Colbert might be an upgrade, but that wide receiver core has not gotten better. And I don't think that was a good riddance. Go hang out with Hackett and over there and with the Jets.
There you go.
Have fun.
Keith also mentioned Voldemort. I'm not going to mention his name on this podcast. I saw that and I'm like, no. Yeah, we went this whole hour and a half without mentioning Voldemort's name. And then JC also came out and said Kane to Colorado. That's man, if that could happen, especially when you're missing. I know it's going to be, a second half season rental, but who cares? I just hope it doesn't end up like Timo Solani and Paul Correa way back when. Oh
God, yeah, that was.
I mean, they weren't rent. I mean, technically, hindsight now they were rentals, but they were here a whole season, and that team just didn't. Paul Correa, I think, was riddled with injuries that year. I think Solani had a decent year, but they just did not meet expectations that year.
And wasn't Theo Fleury here too for a little bit, or was that the Red Wings? I'm thinking
Theo Fleury predated. Theo Fleury was early 2000s. I think he missed the 2001 Cup. He might have been in between.
Yeah.
And in between 2001 and the Paul Correa and Timo Solani. But yeah, Theo Fleury was on the Avs. It's just the time period is a little.
How many mercenaries have the Avs have? They've had Blake. They've had
Parker. Remember Parker?
Parker. Yep. And just guys that they bring in, because then you had Bork. Ray Bork was actually worked out.
Yeah,
so did Blake. Blake worked out too, right? Didn't he?
I mean, Adam
they brought those guys in like that.
Adam Foote was a homegrown.
Footer was homegrown. I love Footer, man.
So there you go. Yeah, we mentioned Kane has left the Blackhawks, so he's not even with the team. We'll see where he ends up. Trade deadline looming here in just I wanted to say, oh man, I forgot when the exact day is, but there's been a couple of trades. I don't know if you saw Ryan O'Reilly get traded to Toronto.
Oh, really?
He was the captain of St. Louis. We all remember Ryan. How about this? His debut? I couldn't name you anybody on the Maple Leafs besides I think his name is Austin Riley. I want to say his name is pretty good guy. He was on the cover of the latest NHL game. March 3rd, by the way, is the trade deadline. So you got about another couple of days to get something in the works if you want to bring in Patrick Kane. Would be awesome.
That'd be crazy.
Good puzzle piece to have if you're trying to go out and get another cup. But that's going to do it for us right here. Don't forget to follow all of the socials. Follow Matt at Matt Mascarenas1 on the Twitterverse. Follow me at Michael Spillane. Follow us at 5280 Sports Radio. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well at 5280 Sports Radio as well. Go like the Facebook page, Elevation 5280 Sports, and the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Don't forget to follow the Rocky Mountain Sports Network as well on Twitter at RM Sports Network. A lot of breaking news, including the Manny Machado extension that the Padres just gave him today as we were on air. And also go follow the Instagram as well at RockyMTNSN on the Insta, Matt.
On the Insta.
You'll get Insta news when you follow Rocky Mountain Sports Network. That's going to do it for us right here. We are Elevation 5280 Sports. For Matt Mascarenas, I'm Michael Spillane. We will talk to you next week.